My name's Elise. I'm 34. And last Sunday, my family decided my lake house belonged to them. Sun stripes the dining room. Crystal throws tiny rainbows. Mom sets down rosemary beef. Dad carves like it's ceremony. I ask for a small slice. He serves a mound. You're all bones, he says. Eyes on the meat. The front door swings wide. My sister Sabrina breezes in. The golden child with weather and excuses. Cole trails behind, juggling backpacks. The kids swarm chairs. Traffic by the outlets was insane. Sabrina announces, glowing in that way she gets when a plan's already done. We eat. Small talk evaporates as soon as I answer. Dad quits his coal about stocks. Mom coos over the kids. I feel that old knot, the silent deal, that never includes me. Then Sabrina drops it. We'll be at your lake place for a bit. Foundation issues. My fork stops. I don't follow. It's sitting empty. Honey, Mom says, Cedar Lake is perfect for the children. 7 months. Tops. Dad adds. Casual voice. Watchful eyes. The kids argue over rooms like they've toured. They have. The plan isn't a request, it's an announcement. I set my napkin down. Calm. Deliberate. Not this time. Elise. Mom warns. Dad's tone shifts into client handling mode. Be reasonable. You've never done the same for me. I say. Even. True. Cole studies his plate. I pull a manila folder from my bag. Permits. Schedules. Signatures. Full renovation. Booked 3 months ago. Down to the studs. 9 months. Silence. Dad's knife stops midair. Mom's water glass hovers. Sabrina's smile cracks. You changed the locks, she asks. Last week. I say. Smart system. Cameras. Insurance updated. Think of the children. Mom whispers. I'm thinking of all the years I was told to be the adult. Dad tries the old lever. This could affect certain arrangements. It already did, I answer, when I refuse to co-sign Cole's flip. We stare across the table like a border just got marked in blue chalk. The mustard jar in the center, fancy. Untouched glitters in the light. A ridiculous detail I can't unsee. The show we always put on. I stand. Dinner was lovely. The room smells like rosemary and old decisions. Elise. Sit. Dad orders. I already did. I say, and leave. Outside. Cold air cleans my head. On the drive home. Remy, my contractor, texts. Materials delivered. Crew ready. Monday 7 a.m. Smart locks live. I laugh out loud. Relief sounds different than I expected. I call Remy. Put the dumpsters right in front of the garage doors. Already planned, she says. For once, I am not bracing for the fight. I've built for it. Tomorrow, they'll try something else. I'll be ready. Monday comes in loud. At 6:58 a.m. A box truck noses down the gravel lane. Cones line my drive. Sawhorses stand like sentries. Rico, the site foreman, checks the permits. Theo, security, sets the camera angles. Remy calls out zones. The lake throws silver at the morning. The truck idles at the cones. The driver looks unsure. Sabrina leaps down in big sunglasses. Cole looks tired already. What is this? She snaps. Sweeping at the cones. Safety. I say, active site. As explained. She marches to the door and jams her old key at the keypad. Secure home systems. Chirps the speaker. Unauthorized entry. Owner notified. You changed the locks, she says. Last week. Garage. 2 weeks. Just storage. Cole tries. Studio framing starts tomorrow. I answer. Showing the stamped permit set, Sabrina waves cash at the driver. The ramp rattles. They roll out our grandmother's mahogany dresser. Lemon oil. Ghosts. The air. I'm 12 again. Polishing wood for $1 while Sabrina watched TV. I breathe through it. I call Harbor home. The nonprofit. We're green for pickup. Curbside. Sabrina hears, You wouldn't. You put furniture on someone else's lawn. I say, I planned for this. Deputy Ruse arrives. Calm and neutral. Owner can secure her site. You can't block emergency access, he tells the movers. A saw winds to life inside. Dust smells like paper and paint. Harbor Home's Tealheart truck pulls up. Tags pieces. Takes photos. And works with kind efficiency. Sabrina threatens, the crew stays polite. Coal sinks. By noon, the lawn is clear. Donation. Not drama. Ruiz leaves with a nod. The moving truck pulls away. Sabrina texts me, You will regret this, and disappears. Inside, the kitchen wall is gone. The lake walks into the room. I feel something unclench between my ribs. We eat tailgate sandwiches. Remy passes me raspberries and a grin. You good. I am. I say and mean it. Message ping. Sabrina's homeless family post. Neighbor push back. Mrs. Duffy. Next door. Comments with a photo of Harbor Home's truck and the words, Proud of our girl on Cedar Lane. On Wednesday, Sabrina calls. You had our things hauled off. You abandoned them. I say, Receipts in your box. They're furious. She warns. They're coming today. Good. I say, Let them see the plan. At 157, my parents' sedan stops at the cones. Remy glances at me. Clear the crew? No. I say, Let the work speak. Welcome to the plan. I tell my parents at the threshold. Behind me, the house breathes through open studs. Dad inhales to argue. This is excessive, Dad says at last. Pause it. Make room for your sister. No. I say. Delays cost. Crew deposit $38. Sube. Custom windows $12. Tibawusher. Engineer. $4. Ling ling ling. Permits $1. Ibai Basher. Pauses pay twice. Mom steps inside. Dust on her coat. The children can't live in chaos. They won't. I say, I booked storage and pulled rentals. $1. Joe Bei Wusher. Armayuan. Ipe Armayuan. 400 available next week. Dad calls me inflexible. I'm consistent. I answer. I lay a thin binder on a sawhorse. Flood. Photos brown water to the outlet. A couch adrift. A dead moth in varnish. Receipts. My notes. 3 years ago. I say, You were on a cruise. I paid $28. Ling ling ling. Slept on a cot for 10 nights. No aride. No help. Mom flinches. I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't ask. I say, We walk to the old primary. Sun spills across plywood. The lake is a sheet of light beyond the frame. This will be my studio. I tell them, a door that closes. Mom touches a beam. You're making a home. I am. Dad studies the drawings. Sightline notes. Elevations. A reading nook with a low window. His finger hovers over my pencil line. It sounds like respect when he says, 40% value increase. Conservative? Appraise agreed. I say, handing the page. For a moment, his posture shifts by a degree. Pastor Williams arrives my dad's idea. Remy hands him paper booties with nurse-level authority. Find common ground, Dad asks. Do you want common ground? Pastor asks me. I want honesty. I say, and a ceasefire. Ask to visit. Ask for help. If I say no, it stands. He turns to my parents. Did you decide about Elise's home without asking? Yes. Dad admits. We assumed she'd agree. Because she always has. Mom says. And why does she always agree, he asks. Because we made it easy to ask her. Dad says. Then grimaces. And hard to say no. Pastor nods. This is what no looks like. Not punishment. Structure. Mom pulls out a tissue-wrapped jar of Dijon with a little gold spoon. I brought this, she says, embarrassed. It felt nice. We never open it. I say, laughing, then let's open it. She says, Remy produces crackers, like a stage magician. We taste mustard in a skeleton house. It's sharp and ridiculous, and exactly right. Sabrina posts another selfie. Neighbor push back. Pastor's phone pings. He doesn't bite. Outside, my parents start to leave. Dad lingers by the cones. Extends a hand. It's brief. Careful. Email the plans. He says, with notes, I will. A beam slides into place overhead with a sound like a period on a necessary sentence. We all look up. That night, Mom texts, dinner Sunday. Just us. No surprises. I'll come. I reply. If I'm ambushed, I leave. No ambush. She writes back. The dining room looks the same. Burgundy napkins. Crystal rainbows. The mustard jar sits in the center. Now, our private joke. My bag strap loops around my chair leg. Exit option. Not a threat. Thanks for coming. Mom says, it sounds practiced. Ground rules. I say, no surprises. No decisions about my house. No extra guests. Agreed. Dad says. He gestures to the empty seat beside me. For Cole, alone. Cole arrives with damp hair and a folder. We found a rental. It says quietly, month to month. It's fine. Lease copy slides across the table. Clean. I nod. Good. Handle storage Monday. I covered the fee. I'll reimburse you, he says, and I believe him. We reach the pivot softly. Elise. Dad says, careful. The community is aware. Sabrina's posts created reaction. I say, Mrs. Duffy is my PR firm. Cole opens his folder. Before you hear it elsewhere, Sabrina asked a friend's husband to draft a discussion letter. He passes it to me. Constructive trust. Equitable interest. Family assets. It claims my down payment came from pooled funds. No dates, no names. Designed to spook. It's sloppy. I say. And false. We gave you $1. $500 after graduation. Dad offers. A gift. I spent it on a laptop. I say, check my tax folder. I pull my purchase packet wire confirmation. Closing disclosure. Bank statements. No gift letter. 420 yuan. Ling ling ling. My account. No cosigners. You were on a boat that week. Cole exhales. I'll tell them to stand down. We clear plates together. It feels like a small treaty. My phone buzzes in the hall. City Inspector Anonymous complaint. On site now. Of course. New. Angle. Same playbook. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I say. At Cedar Lake. The inspector checks, stamps, and dates. Remy meets him with a tidy folder and trades code with him like pros. He nods at our reclaimed lath stack. Shelving. Yep. I say. He signs no violations and advises a chain, across the drive. Theo's already got one in the truck. Back home. Mom calls. Sabrina says she has proof. The house is a family asset. Old emails. An idea isn't ownership. I say, thanks for the heads up. I create a folder, legal potential. Drop in the demand letter. Permit set. Inspection sign-off. Sabrina's posts screenshotted before deletion. And Theo's still image a hatchback at 0043 with boxes labeled MISC. Linens. Kids. Morgan keeps. I send it all to Marianne. A college friend turned lawyer who loves paper trails. Her voice memo lands 10 minutes later. You're solid. My reply says, no interest. No promise. Remove defamation. Route future contact to counsel. Don't engage online. Document everything. Then a private text. You think you won? You have no idea what's coming. Screenshot. Filed. Forwarded to Mara and Theo. Before bed. I write 3 lines. Chain and lock. Monday. Motion lights at road. Ask Theo. Watch the trunks. Pre-dawn. Will test the plan. Er 4 tretten M. Motion at the drive. Headlights wash the gravel white. I'm already awake. Dressed. Gone. Cedar Lake looks colder at night. The new chain glints. Motion lights pop on like runway lamps. The hatchback idles. Trunk cracked. Boxes labeled MISC. Linens. Kids. Morgan keeps. Theo texts audio on. His pre-recorded message plays through the porch speaker. Active construction. No storage. You are being recorded. Sabrina freezes. Then sets a box on the post like a dare. Morning. I say. Stepping into the light. You can't keep us out forever. She says. I can keep you out today. I say. That's enough. Depute Ruiz pulls up. Calm presence. Everyone okay? Unwanted drop-off. I say. Sabrina lifts a silver spray can. Theo steps. Half a pace. Ruiz raise a palm. Ma'am. Vandalism makes this simple. She stops. Yanks at the box. The tape gives. Papers skid over wet gravel. A notary stamp glints. Another page shows my mother's signature scanned. Not written. Where did you get that? I ask. It's proof, she says. Mom said the house was for family. I have emails. I call Mom on speaker. Did you sign an affidavit for Sabrina? What, no? Mom says. Shocked awake. She copied my name once in 7th grade to skip algebra. I grounded her. Pause. I should have grounded myself for not holding the line. The loop in the Y is wrong. The S leans left. It's a photocopy of a scan of a memory. Load your papers, Ruiz says gently. Leave now. If you abandon boxes, they're treated as abandoned and collected. Sabrina stares at me like I invented gravity. You think you're better than us? I think I'm in charge of what I own. I say. She kicks the box. The friend in the hoodie whispers. Sabs. Come on. They leave. Not fast. Just done. Remy arrives with coffee and pastries. Inspection of the soul at dawn, she says, and hands me a croissant. We walk the frame. Electrical by noon. Plumber after. Windows at 4. Estujador Thursday. Born ready to pick hinges, she teases. Born ready to pick documentation. I say. An email from Mara lands her response to counsel clean. Spine straight. CC'd to Cole. I append our inspection sign-off as a courtesy to avoid additional anonymous complaints. Cole replies, "Thank you. I'm handling our move." Mrs. Duffy arrives at the cones with warm bread. The harbor homeboy Jace mowed my strip, she says. He's staining that dresser chocolate brown. Wants to be a carpenter now. Imagine. I can, I say, and mean it. Dad calls. I told Sabrina she does not have our support for legal threats. He says, a beat. Softer, I'm sorry. I taught you to run. We both let the sentence sit. By late afternoon, the window crew tips glass into frames. The lake steps inside. We sign the big beam with Sharpie's crew. Neighbors. Me. For Jace. Someone writes. For the second chance. I add. For a door that closes. My parents arrive with coffee and a bakery box. Paper booties on without being asked. Mom reads the Sharpie notes like prayers. Dad palms the Oak Island like he's checking a ledger, and finally smiles. They sign the beam, Mom. For room at the table. Dad, listen. The hatchback returns. Sabrina lifts Grandma's hope chest from the trunk and sets it on the gravel. She opens it quilt. Envelopes. A wooden recipe box with a brass hinge. On top, Grandma's hand, mustard homemade. Mignis go soft. I hate that they do. Watch this. Sabrina says, stepping toward the porch with the recipe box. Theo blocks the step. Ruiz's SUV idles at the curb. The crew stills. Sabrina looks at Mom's face. At our beam. At me. She sags. The lid slips. An envelope slides forward. Caught under the lip. Addressed to Elise and Sabrina. Open when ready. Give me the box. I say. Careful. We'll open that together. She flinches. No. Then keep it. I say. Keep what's yours. But you don't get this house. Her voice loses its performance. Dad, tell her. I can't. He says. Not anymore. She drops the box in the chest. Slams the lid. Scrapes her knuckles on the latch. Wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. And drives away. Silence. Real. Not cruel. We saw the envelope. Mom whispers, if she brings it, we'll open it. I say, if she doesn't, I'll still build my kitchen. Mustard, Mom says. Watery laugh. Bread. I say, smiling. Mara's voicemail. Preservation letter for any forged docs filed. No trespass notice ready. Keep building. Inside. The beam holds our names. Outside. The chain holds the line. The doorbell rings at 8:02 a.m. Porch cam, Sabrina, at the chain with an envelope in both hands. No chest. No boxes. One rule. I say over the intercom. We talk. No shouting. No surprises. She nods. Theo lifts the chain. Rami rolls paper over new floors. Cabinets in. Counters covered. We left a panel open above the beam. Our names are visible in black loops. Sabrina follows the blue tape path without being told. That feels new. She offers the envelope. From the chest, she says. I read the note. not the cards. We sit on a sawhorse bench by the lake window. The envelope smells faintly of Grandma's linen drawer soap. Starch. A little cinnamon. I read the note aloud. Girls, two things live in a house: love and rules. Without both, you get a museum or a storm. Elise, you were born with a list in your pocket. Sabrina, you were born with a door open. Learn the other thing. I once saved a fancy jar of mustard for guests until it turned bitter. Don't save the good things for company. Use them on an ordinary sandwich. The chest is Sabrina's to keep. The recipes belong to whoever cooks them. The letter inside belongs to you both. Open it when you're ready to hear the same truth, 2 ways. P.S. Neither of you owes anyone your home. A table is an invitation, not a right. Grandma Ruth. We open the inner envelope together. 2 cards. 1 E. 1 S. We trade. Mine. Elise. You carry the house like a beam. Put it down sometimes. Let the door latch. Let the windows open. If your yes feels like a bruise, try no. If you feel small after helping, it wasn't help. Bake bread. It will teach you time. R. Sabrina's. Sabrina. You like to borrow heat from other people's stoves. Build your own. Spark without a hearth. Burns hands. If you want a room, a pay rent. If you want a favor, say, please. If you want to be trusted, return what you borrow. Keep the hope chest. Fill it with receipts and keys you earned. R. Sabrina breathes out. I'm sorry. She says bare. Not performed. For the boxes, the letter, the posts, all of it. I kept pushing because pushing worked. Until you moved the wall. You forged Mom's name. I say, line on a page. A friend helped. She says, it was stupid. Mara's letter landed. We're done. Good. I say, have your counsel confirm. In writing. She looks around. It's beautiful, she says. I wanted the room with the blue view. You can stand here and look. I say, anyone can. She returns my old winter coat clean, mended. Then, sets the recipe box on the counter. Grandma's bread, she says, handing me the card. You first? Okay, I say. I'll try. I will spreadsheet it. Obviously. Mom's in the car. She adds, if you'll let her in, she can. I say, 5 minutes. Paper booties. Mom comes in, learns the path, kisses my cheek. You did it, she whispers. Weeks fold in, floor down, paint chosen one almost white. One, actually white, yes. I contain multitudes. The studio door is heavy and kind. When it closes, quiet sits down like a friend. Housewarming day, crew first. Neighbors second. Family last. Signs by the door. Please ask before posting. And coats here. Pastor Williams blesses studs and stubborn hearts. Remy toasts the beam. Theo hands me a brass key fob engraved close. Jace. T. Usco. Shows me a photo of the dresser deep and smooth. I got an apprenticeship. He says, glowing. Start Monday. You did that. I tell him. He eats 2 mustard rolls. Dad moves slowly, reading the space like a ledger, then closing his eyes like a person. You were right. He says, I was necessary. I say. He nods, understands the difference. Mom places a rosemary pot by the reading nook. You can use it, she says, smiling. Sabrina arrives late with a bakery box. Dessert, she says. From the card, not a mix. We cut warm loaves. The crust sings. The crumb opens. She laughs. Surprised. Softer than I've heard in years. We're not good yet, she says, but I can stop making it worse. That's good. I say, that's a start. She leaves the recipe box. Share, she asks. Share. I say, night spills over the lake. After the last guest goes, I pin Grandma's bread card above the counter and feed the starter flour. Water. Time. Blue tape on the jar with today's date. Texts bing. Mara all quiet. File closed. If they try again, we swat it. Dad proud of your plan. Mom photo of the mustard jar. Half empty. Caption. Using the good things. Sabrina photo of the hope chest at their rental. Kids' drawings taped above it. No caption. Just light. I lock the studio door. Not a slam. A click. The beam holds our names. The chain at the drive hangs honest. The lake breathes. So do I. Your turn. What would you have done with the envelope porch or later? Where's your line? And what would you write on your beam? Tell me in the comments. A table is an invitation, not a right. The window's open when I decide. The door closes when I ask it to. And in this house I made, with my name on the deed and my plan in the bones, I live the way the light is easy. If you thought Elise's family tragedy had hit a ceiling, wait until Lucian, when his own parents covered up his wife's affair with his brother. He simply smiled, placed 3 envelopes on the table, and turned away, and from that moment, the real storm began. Story 2. My parents assisted my wife in concealing the fact that she was having an affair with my brother. I smiled, gave them an envelope, and walked away after my mother told me, they're soulmates. Be happy for them. My wife phoned a few minutes later, yelling and pleading with me to return. Okay. Reddit. Prepare yourselves for the incredible spectacle that is about to begin. You must understand what I believed my life looked like 10 months ago before we can discuss that. I'm Lucian, a 32-year-old man who works as a senior logistics coordinator for a medium-sized shipping firm. I make around 78. 0, 0, 0 before taxes. Respect from coworkers who don't mind if I sometimes smell like coffee and stress perspiration. A solid career. And a consistent salary. Victoria and I have been married for 7 years. She is 29 years old and works in pharmaceutical sales. She stood out from the throng when we met her at a shabby happy hour downtown because of her confidence. I believed we had our act together, but we weren't some Instagram couple. We were both striving for greater things as she built her profession and I built mine. I had been putting in a lot of overtime and weekend side jobs for years in order to gradually accumulate our money for a suburban home with a good garden and potential room for children. Each additional dollar was invested in that fund. For this purported plan, I'm talking about driving my beat-up vehicle when she gets the fancier Honda CR-V, bringing depressing cubicle lunches while my coworkers have takeaway and missing boys' nights. My younger brother Pierce, a 7-year-old family golden child, is a delightful screw-up who just has to figure out what he wants to do. For 3 months, the man tried his hand at becoming a DJ, a personal trainer, a cryptocurrency day trader, en amateur photographer, or any other kind of hustle. But he eventually got tired and moved on. And here is the part of the narrative when I was the greatest fool. I kept his back in spite of everything. Even though he broke every promise and borrowed money that he never returned, I was there to aid him when he needed it. When his credit was too bad for him to be granted anything more than a bus ticket, I was able to obtain him warehouse jobs via my network. co-signed his vehicle. I would pay his rent when he was short on it, which was pretty much every month, without making it seem strange. Family does that, don't they? Dad is a mechanic by trade. Prior to her early retirement last year, Mom was employed at the post office. This whole family was the first to raise us. Nonsense. Blood is thicker than water. Pierce and Victoria had always been close. Looking back, it's too tight. On certain days, they would text me more than she would. Rather than being a 7-year-old man-child who still believed that his jokes were the pinnacle of humor, she would laugh at them as if he were Dave Chappelle. Whether I was traveling or at work, he always found an excuse to stop by, always with some ridiculous justification. However, I assumed it was just a matter of family dynamics. She was my spouse. He was my sibling. How could I possibly imagine anything else? Correct. Everything else was there. In actuality, the first noticeable break appeared around 9 months ago. Victoria began to change. Not dramatic, but often in a manner I couldn't explain. When I entered a room, she would turn her phone to the face down, began getting dressed up for what seemed like every other week's ladies' evenings. She would give me shorter, less specific responses when I asked her about her day. The mistrust began mildly, the kind of thing you tell yourself makes you nervous, since the other option is too chaotic to think about. Pierce began to appear more often and always had a valid justification until you gave it some serious attention. For what project were the tools required wanted to do what precisely with our internet? Something that couldn't wait until the weekend had to be dropped off. And the timing was strange. On business travels, he would arrive 20 minutes after I left for the airport. What really got to me, however, were the phone calls. Victoria would speak to me in these quiet, private tones that she hadn't used in months until I walked into a room. When she spotted me, she would hastily conclude by saying, "Got to go. Talk later." She would dismiss me with blatant falsehoods that became sloppier every week when I asked who it was. A 4-day business trip to Phoenix in March was the tipping moment. When I left, something didn't seem right. Victoria kissed me farewell as if she were glad rather than sad, nearly pushing me out the door, as if she was almost ready for me to go on the road. I impulsively picked up one of those little wireless security cameras while I was at Best Buy. I told myself it was probably nothing and that I was simply being too worried about house security while I was away. In the living room, I placed it behind a few books on a shelf that provided a good view of the front entrance and kitchen. I linked it to a mobile application. I probably wouldn't even check the darn thing. I thought, I was completely mistaken. I accessed the app during my lunch break on the second day of my vacation. I felt like throwing up all over my depressing desk salad after seeing what I did. In our kitchen, Victoria was encircling Pierce. They were making out in full force. It was just 3 hours after she texted me. According to the timestamp, "Baby, I miss you. I'm counting down to your return." 3 hours. The worst thing was how cozy they were. A key was in Pierce's possession. How on earth had she handed him a key? He behaved as if he owned our home, taking charge of it while I was abroad and working to support the life we had ostensibly created together. I witnessed my whole life crumble as I sat in that antiseptic conference room with my coworkers. A lifetime of brotherhood. 7 years of marriage. All bullshit. I did not immediately approach them. I was in a strange daze for the remainder of that business trip. I'm just going through the motions, while my mind attempted to comprehend what I had seen. I remained calm when I arrived home on Thursday night as I planned my next course of action. Copied the video to 3 separate cloud storage accounts. Took screenshots of the timestamps and began observing their interactions more closely. The indications were everywhere once I understood what to look for. Over the course of 3 weeks, I installed more cameras, gathered more evidence, and recorded their routines every Tuesday and Thursday. Pice would visit while I was at my regular meetings. Victoria had lied about being late for work. She had been leaving early those days. I discovered when I contacted her workplace. It was a really intricate web of falsehoods. I had reached a breaking point. On a Sunday morning, with the video queued up on my phone, I trapped Victoria in our bedroom. I showed her the screen and said, "I know." Her expression went through phases of astonishment, fright, and wrath as she gazed at it for maybe 10 seconds. Not guilt, not humiliation, nor rage. She acted as if I was at fault when you installed a camera in our home. "My house," I said. "For what length of time?" That's when she broke down. But not in the manner you would think. She was more angry that she was caught than regretful for what she had done. "Lucian, that wasn't intended to happen. It was not planned by us. In any case, you're never here, always at work or on those pointless vacations. And when I needed someone, Pice was there to help." She stopped sobbing, however, and gave me a look as if I were the issue. She responded, "You're being dramatic. We didn't want to do you any harm. Things simply happen between people sometimes. You wouldn't comprehend. The only thing you've ever been enthusiastic about is saving money." It was as if she had given me a face slap. My 7-year wife was caught red-handed with my brother, who said that I was exaggerating my feelings because I was furious. I replied, "We're informing your family. Everyone is impacted by this." She nodded, but I was skeptical of something in her expression. "Yes. All right. Together. We ought to inform them. They are entitled to the truth." That afternoon, I gave my folks a call and asked them to come over with Pice. Claimed that we needed to talk about something significant as a family. I realized something was wrong when they arrived 2 hours later. Pice following. They all seemed to be prepared for something. I began to attempt to speak steadily. "Mom, Dad, we must speak." My mom raised her hand. "We already know." "Lucian, my dear." I was struck by the words. "What are you?" Dad responded. "We've known for months." While avoiding eye contact and concentrating on his hands, "We hoped you would work things out on your own and deal with it responsibly." I glanced at my brother, my wife, and my parents across the room. Their looks ranged from frustration to sympathy as they stared at me. No one seemed embarrassed. No one seemed apologetic. They seemed to be waiting for my rage to end so they could continue with their day. "All of you, how long have you known?" My voice became softer as I asked. For the first time since his arrival, Pice spoke up and stated, "Since February." Now he was in my living room, his arm around Victoria's waist. "Lucian." We tried to resist it, but true love cannot be fought. "Slowly," I repeated, "real love." My mother remarked, "Lucian, they're meant to be. Relationships have always been difficult for you. Perhaps it's time to find someone more suitable and move on from this one." My dad gave a nod in agreement. "You must be mature about this." "Son, they're content. Do you not wish for their happiness?" I turned to face Victoria, who had Pierce's hand in hers now. "This was your major surprise for the whole meeting. This was all arranged by you." She shrugged and replied, "We thought this way would be easier. Keep it inside the family. A smooth changeover. Your birthday seemed ideal." Pice smirked and said, "For everyone, a new year means a new beginning." After being silent up until this point, my sister Jenna finally spoke out. "Lucian, maybe the two of you were just incompatible. You do realize that everything occurs for a reason. Being told that I should be glad about my wife having an affair with my brother, that I was being immature for feeling wounded, and that I should simply accept it and go on, since they were meant to be." I stood there with my whole family. I briefly feared that I could go utterly crazy. Then, however, something became clear as I felt this icy serenity. I couldn't help but smile. For the first time all night, I spoke steadily as I said, "You know what? You're entirely correct. I ought to be pleased for you both." Their cheeks lit up with relief. In fact, Victoria seemed content. "Lucian, I'm so happy you're acting rationally on this. Nothing between us has to alter as a result of this. We may remain family." "Nope," I said, dipping inside my jacket. "Actually, I've got something for everyone." I distributed the 3 thick manila envelopes I had already prepared, one each for Pierce, my parents, and Victoria. "What is this?" Mom inquired. Still grinning, I answered, "Just some paperwork. Nothing pressing. When you go home, you may read it." "Are you heading out?" Victoria inquired. She also seemed concerned for the first time throughout the evening. "You're correct about new beginnings and everything. I should allow you some time to adjust to your new living arrangement." After grabbing my keys, I made my way to the door. "Oh, and you may want to relocate your vehicle. Pierce, in approximately an hour, I'll report it stolen." I heard packages being torn apart behind me as I stepped outside. I got into my vehicle and left when my phone began to explode. I was 2 streets away. Victoria was the first to call. Let it ring. 30 seconds later, there was another call. I had made reservations across town by the time I arrived at the Holiday Inn Express. It wasn't quite the Ritz, but my brother was staying there and the linens were clean. I had a screen full of messages and 27 missed calls. Victoria wrote a superb first voicemail. "Please don't do this to me. Lucien, return now. We can resolve this. Please, please, please." Anger and fear were trembling in her voice. However, I was really affected by my mother's message. She was so angry that her voice was trembling. "Come back here immediately. Lucian James Parker. We didn't raise you this way. This is not how family destroys family. I am very disappointed. As is your father." "Correct." Without listening, I ordered a pizza and erased the remainder. "Guys, here's the deal. I had been getting ready for this moment for the last 3 months. Something in me didn't break down the day I saw their little kitchen production. It became calculating and frigid. I had been keeping track of everything, making plans, consulting with financial advisors and attorneys, and waited for the right opportunity to demonstrate my value to them. And they had given me the bow-wrapped present at that same time. The envelopes included a postnuptial agreement Victoria had signed 3 years before, when we had some trust difficulties over her spending, and divorce papers that I had previously signed and notarized. It explicitly said that she lost her claim to the home and the majority of our joint assets in the event of infidelity, but she had entirely forgotten about it. There were hundreds of pictures of her and Pierce in different compromising situations taken around our home over the previous month, as well as an eviction notice, giving her 30 days to leave the property that was only in my name. Copies of every piece of evidence I had, such as camera footage, text screenshots, and financial records demonstrating how I had been supporting Pierce's existence while he was having an affair with my wife in my home, were sent to my parents. An official letter terminating my contribution to their mortgage payments. Since Dad's retirement, I had been paying $800 of their monthly installment. The family mobile plan I had been paying for, which included coverage for all 4 of us, was canceled. For Pierce, the actual surprise, the 2019 Honda Civic he had been driving was registered in my name. According to legal paperwork, since his credit was still so bad, I had never transferred the title after co-signing. My lawyer had the keys, and because he no longer had my consent to drive it, I had already reported it stolen, in addition to a formal demand for repayment of all the loans I had given him over the years, itemized with dates and interest, totaling just over $23. Subay. I also sent a notice to his probation officer, stating that he had violated several probationary conditions by living in his brother's house and allegedly sleeping with his brother's wife, which was a result of a fight I had assisted him in beating 2 years prior. What I had done in the months before this, however, was the true brilliance. In order to keep Victoria from noticing, I had discreetly moved my direct payments to a different account and left just enough in the joint checking to cover the mortgage and utilities. Victoria couldn't legally touch the home deed since I had moved it into a trust. I kept track of every dime Pice owed me over the previous 5 years, as well as any instances in which my parents had requested money despite being aware of the affair. Most significantly, ever since I became suspicious. I had been documenting everything. There were more cameras in the security system I had set up. The home was suddenly filled with audio pickups. I had all of their conversations about me, their harsh jokes about me, their future plans, and every time Victoria brought Pierce around, preserved. Hotel security contacted my room at 100 a.m., only 4 hours after I had left. We have a lady in the lobby who says she is your wife. Mr. Parker. She is agitated and insistent on seeing you. Claims that there is a family emergency. Victoria's screams could be heard in the distance. I know you're here. Lucian. Just spend 5 minutes talking to me. You're being crazy. Inform her that I am not accessible. He informed security. Call the police if she refuses to leave. A deluge of communications the next morning depicted complete mayhem. Around Swy, no, a.m. Victoria reportedly returned to my parents' home and began yelling and weeping hysterically about how I was destroying everyone's life for no reason. When Victoria betrayed him, Pice's attempt to reassure her that they could overcome this together failed. In a voicemail, Jenna left me. She cried, "This is your fault. We could have come up with another solution if you hadn't pushed to inform him. He is now attempting to destroy us all." Victoria was crying on my parents' sofa as they attempted to deal with the financial and legal disaster I had just thrown on them after Pierce had stormed away. That evening, I received 15 voicemails from my mother. She started weeping at the 10th number. She threatened to contact my supervisor via number 13. By the age of 15, she was pleading with me to return home so that we could resolve this as a family. However, the true drama was just beginning. I did more than just collect proof when I found out about the affair. I had spent weeks speaking with financial advisors, attorneys, and Rita, a private investigator who specialized on instances of adultery. The $5,000 I had spent on her services had been well worth it. When we first met in her messy office, which smelt like cigarettes and stale coffee, she informed me that most people believe affairs are just about the sex. However, they are often surrounded by a complex web of falsehoods. Lucian, social, professional, and financial matters don't occur in a vacuum. Usually, they are a component of a larger scheme of dishonesty. She was absolutely correct. I discovered that Victoria and Pierce had been involved in more than just an affair, thanks to Rita's inquiry. Together, they had been preparing for a whole future. I was unaware of their combined savings account. For 6 months, Victoria had been gradually taking money out of our joint account. We're discussing $400 to $500 at a time. And each time, the justification seemed plausible. Helping my sister with rent, emergency auto repair, and medical expenditures are all falsehoods. Together, they had been looking for apartments in the posher area of town. They had been considering how to deliver the news to me in a tactful way, when to file for divorce, and even what tale to tell our common acquaintances to paint me in a negative light. Most incriminating of all, they had been discussing their alternatives with a lawyer, a real estate attorney, not a divorce attorney. While I was away on business, They had been investigating if they might assert common law marital rights to our home if they could demonstrate that they had lived together for a sufficient amount of time. As they secured legal residence in my home, they planned to gaslight me into believing I was controlling and paranoid. According to the consultation notes, Rita was able to get via her contacts. After that, they would accuse me of emotional abuse and attempt to get a restraining order that would prevent me from living in my own house. I realized then that this was more than simply treachery. The deliberate theft was intended to take my life from the inside out. However, my flatmate Tommy from college contacted 4 weeks after the altercation with something that chilled me to the bone. I could sense the worry in his voice as he stated, "Lucian, I need to ask you something straight up. Are you going through a mental breakdown, Tommy?" "What on earth are you talking about?" "Last week, your brother Pierce contacted me on Facebook. Said that your family was concerned about you since you had been experiencing some kind of breakdown." I balled my hands into fists. "What is he?" In the days that followed, I learned that Pice and my parents had been phoning my friends, acquaintances, and co-workers, accusing me of mental instability and requesting that they record any troubling behavior they had seen. They were trying to get me to commit. Carlos, a co-worker, he gave Lucien a call. I received an odd call from a man who said he was your brother, was asking about how you were doing at work, and if you had recently seemed agitated or worried. I was curious whether you had ever discussed harming someone. Mike, my workout companion. The gym received a call from a woman claiming to be your mother, wondering whether you had been behaving aggressively while working out. My previous therapist, doctor, made the most terrifying call 3 years ago. At a difficult time at work, I had a short encounter with Morel. Lucian, your mother called me, and it was very upsetting. She wanted to know whether I had seen any indications of possible violence or mental instability throughout our meetings. I haven't discussed treatment with my mother in years. Doctor, Morel. What was it? She said. According to her, the family was concerned that you would harm yourself or someone else since you were experiencing paranoid thoughts about your wife's infidelity. She asked whether I would be willing to testify about your mental condition, and if I believed you need an involuntary psychiatric detention. I came to a realization as a result of that chat that really shocked me. I gave Dr. Renna. My mother had mentioned Morrison. The doctor, in a few texts that Rita had retrieved from Victoria's cloud backup. Mr. Parker. Yeah. I've been awaiting your call. Your family has documented your declining mental health in great detail. They're really concerned about your well-being and the safety of others. What kind of records your brother and mother have documented several instances of your wife's compulsive monitoring, allegations against her, and paranoid behavior, threats of violence, property destruction, and stalker behavior have all been reported. They fear you may have early-stage schizophrenia or some other kind of delusional disease. The case had already been constructed. They had proof of my paranoid conduct that was really evidence of my finding their affair. They had been filming my interactions with them, deleting context from the tapes, and used the footage as evidence that I was becoming insane. The message that Rita had obtained from my father's phone was the most terrifying aspect. Lucian has great faith in his family. He won't realize this until it's too late. They were correct. I never in a million years would have predicted that. My phone called from a number I knew the day after I learnt about their mental manipulation technique. My dad's elderly father. My grandfather Rufus. I had no idea what they were doing to you. Your father called me this morning, pleading with me not to reach out, practically panicking. And that's when I realized something was seriously wrong. Lucian, I owe you an apology, he said, without any politeness, his voice gritty from 60 years of cigarettes and construction work. I told Lucian, I've known your father for 55 years, and I've never heard him sound that panicked. What really happened? He told me that you were being vindictive and trying to ruin the family over nothing. and that you were overreacting to Victoria and Pierce's friendship. After I finished, there was a nearly whole minute of stillness. Jesus Christ. Dad eventually mumbled, I'm sorry. Son, I've always felt that they treated you differently than Pierce. But I never imagined. Look, I have a cabin up north. That's yours for as long you need it. I'm phoning every member of this family to let them know the truth. My cousin Isabel called with the first bomb, Lucian. I need to tell you something that's been eating at me. Within 48 hours of Grandpa making his calls, the extended family was buzzing with information about me that I didn't even know. That was the beginning of the second wave of consequences that swept through our family. During your business trip to Atlanta last month, your mother called to ask if I could cover for Victoria in case someone inquired about her whereabouts. How would I do that? She informed me that Victoria was heading to a retreat with Pierce to help resolve family matters, and that if someone inquired about her whereabouts, I should say she was spending a girls' weekend with me. Jenna had been asked to provide alibis for family planning meetings that were actually hookup sessions, and that revelation led to the discovery of a whole network of lies my family had been maintaining to cover the affair. It sounded like they were planning some sort of intervention or surprise for you. My Aunt Carmen had been told Pice was helping Victoria with a surprise home renovation project. Even our 70-year-old neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, had been recruited. My mother told her Pierce was doing handyman work around the house and asked her not to mention it because it was supposed to be a surprise for my birthday. Lucian, sit down for this. My cousin Ronan, who worked for a large tech company and was familiar with digital forensics, said when he called me at the hotel, Rufus asked me to look into some of the tech stuff in your evidence file. I've been going through those cloud backups. Rita pulled, and I found something you missed. What group chat screenshots? The web of deception was impressive. The screenshots Ronan sent me were worse than I could have imagined, including screenshots of text exchanges between Victoria Pierce and your parents, as well as screenshots of conversations with other people. They weren't just planning to get you committed. Lucian, they were planning to take over your life. Mom. Lucian will go crazy when he finds out, because he's always unstable when things don't go his way. Pierce. I've been recording some of his controlling behavior with Victoria. Phone calls, where he sounds paranoid. My own family talking about me as if I were a problem to be solved rather than a person being destroyed. We may need it for court. Victoria. He's been acting suspiciously lately. His borderline stalker behavior is something we can use to demonstrate his danger. Mom. Dr. Morrison stated that if we can demonstrate a pattern, we can likely obtain a 72-hour psychiatric hold for assessment. Pierce. Then what he leaves in 3 days and comes after us with a shotgun. Mom? Not unless we can demonstrate that he poses a threat to himself and others. Reading those messages made my heart ache. If he is found mentally incompetent, I can take over his property and finances until he is stable. Victoria and I would still be legally his wife until the divorce is finalized. So I would have access to everything. Dad, the house alone is worth $280. 000, plus his 401k savings. My lawyer used this new evidence to file additional motions that completely changed the case's focus, moving beyond debt repayment and divorce to document a criminal conspiracy that could have resulted in felony charges for all parties involved. Within 48 hours, I received calls from relatives who had been receiving panicked calls from my parents trying to control the story. The annual family reunion was canceled in July after half the family said they wouldn't attend if my parents were present. Rufus had also been busy, and the truth was, getting out faster than their BS version could keep up. That night, Rufus called me with the news that made all the difference. Lucian, I want you to know something. Your father was meant to get the trucking company when I died. But after what he did to you, I can't give it to him. I've been thinking about this issue, and I need to tell you what I've decided. I'm altering my will. I was shocked to learn that I wanted you to inherit it instead. I don't know anything about trucking. No, But you understand logistics. The business needs fresh blood anyway, and you're the only person in this family I trust to run it. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like I had something to build towards instead of just something to escape from. Grandpa owned a successful freight company that employed 23 people and brought in serious revenue worth real money. After being suspended for breaking probation, Pice was caught for driving without a legal license, facing possible prison time, and had returned to live with my parents, who were having difficulty paying their mortgage without my $800 monthly contribution. Small towns love gossip, so when word spread about her affair, several clients asked for new account representatives, and her boss decided she was no longer a good fit for the company culture. Victoria had also moved in with them because she couldn't afford a place of her own after losing her sales job. According to Jenna, who was the only family member still talking to me, the living environment was a total nightmare. They're at each other's throats constantly. Jenna informed me during one of our weekly conversations. Pice blames Victoria for pushing too hard too quickly. Victoria blames Pierce for not being able to support her financially like you did. The irony was perfect. Mom pushed this whole thing too hard and too fast. What do you mean Mom pushed it? Mom went along with it. But he never really believed it would work out. Apparently. She's the one who encouraged Victoria to follow her heart when the affair first started. Now, he's saying Mom destroyed the family for nothing. Everyone was now blaming the woman who had planned my betrayal. But it wasn't over yet. My lawyer had been constructing a case that went far beyond debt collection and divorce procedures, and with the evidence I had gathered, including the psychiatric manipulation scheme, he had piqued the district attorney's interest in possible fraud charges pertaining to conspiracy to commit false imprisonment and misuse of marital assets. I had to make a decision. I could have destroyed them all, or I could have taken what I needed to rebuild and gone clean. But I mainly went for the middle ground, filed the civil claims for whatever we can get. Did I want to pursue criminal charges that may put them all in jail? Or was the civil case sufficient to make my point? I want Victoria to understand that actions have real-world consequences. But I don't want to send anyone to prison unless they force my hand. Are you sure? With the evidence you have, we could probably get significant jail time for all of them, especially your mother and Pierce. I told him, I want every penny Pierce owes me, plus damages and interest. But there was one more surprise that completely altered my perspective 5 days after that conversation. I received a text from an unknown number with a screenshot attached. I don't want to be the kind of man who destroys people out of spite. I just want them to realize they can't do what they did and walk away like nothing happened. Mom, I think Lucian is getting suspicious about you too. The screenshot was taken from a group chat between Victoria Pierce and my mother, who dated 9 months prior to my discovering anything. It was from a mutual friend who had somehow become entangled in the drama through Facebook connections and small-town gossip networks. Guy is clueless about everything that isn't on a spreadsheet. Victoria. I feel bad sometimes, but he's so focused on work and that stupid house fund that he hardly pays attention to me anymore, Pierce. He's too trusting and too busy with work to figure it out. You need to be more cautious or figure out how to handle him. I can't keep pretending to be happy much longer. Victoria. God. I hope so. Mom, Lucian hates confrontation and drama. He'll probably just accept it and move on rather than fight about it. Maybe you two are meant to be together. Lucian has always been emotionally distant anyway, even as a child, caring more about his projects and accomplishments than connecting with people. My own mother had been actively encouraging my wife to cheat with my brother while trying to figure out how to get away with it. And that screenshot became the last straw. I forwarded it to my lawyer. This whole situation is exhausting. Reading those messages was like getting gut punched all over again. In a moment of what felt like justice but was probably petty retaliation, I posted it to our family group chat, which included all of our cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends. Grandpa shared it with the rest of the extended family. The response was swift and harsh. It's been 14 months since that birthday party that changed everything. And 5 weeks later, the last shoe dropped, but it came from an unexpected direction. Family members began kicking my parents and Pierce out of the group chat one by one, while relatives who had previously been neutral or trying to stay out of it suddenly took sides. I'm writing this from my new office in Denver, where Rufus's trucking business has expanded into full-scale logistics and freight management. We just landed a major contract with a national retailer to handle their Western distribution network. And I'm actually excited about work for the first time in years. Samantha and I have been together for 8 months now, and she moved in with me last month. My mother has essentially had a complete mental breakdown. She tells me, and she's met Rufus, who has become the father figure I needed after severing my ties with my parents. I still talk to Jenna sometimes, and she's the only member of my biological family I have any contact with. And even that's limited and carefully managed. Victoria is struggling as a single mother, barely keeping it together, financially or emotionally. And Pierce served 16 months for multiple theft and fraud charges. Jenna claims that Pierce blames everyone but himself for his predicament, and is apparently convinced that he is the real victim in this whole situation. The woman who had spent months planning intricate schemes to manipulate everyone around her apparently couldn't handle the consequences. She's been living in a one-bedroom apartment across town from our old neighborhood, doing retail jobs that barely pay for nursery and rent. And she's been pleading with Jenna to forward messages to me, pleading with me to consider helping her get back on her feet for the sake of the past. I firmly and permanently denied. It doesn't matter anymore. Those who know me better know. 6 weeks ago, my phone rang a prison call. I nearly didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Lucian, it's Pierce. Victoria has been telling people around town that I was abusive during our marriage, that I was controlling and paranoid, and that the affair was her way of escaping. She has rewritten history to make herself the victim and me the villain. Don't hang up, brother. Just give me 5 minutes. His voice sounded different. You've got 2 minutes. I added, look, I've had a lot of time to think about what occurred, and I know we all made some significant errors. It's likely that you're still angry, but we're related. Families should always be together. I go out in 4 months, and when I do, I'd want us to attempt to restore our friendship. I gently repeated. Mistakes. That's the term you're using. Lucian, hurry up. With Victoria, things were tricky, but it is now behind us. We can begin again. Let's go beyond this whole situation. I heard you're doing pretty well with Rufus's company. It was there. The true cause of the call. He had been monitoring me and my achievements. I really let the quiet to linger for a few seconds. Pierce, in reference to Rufus. Last week, he told me something fascinating. It seems that you gave him a call around 7 months ago. I made an effort to persuade him that I was telling a falsehood about your relationship with Victoria, informed him about my mental instability and the family's concern that I would become aggressive. There was an overwhelming quiet on the other end. Here's the thing, though, I went on, maintaining an entirely dispassionate and flat tone of voice. Rufus captured every word of the call, and when he played it for me, you know what happened? I didn't simply get the company because he wanted to. He gave me the full business right away. Everything. The vehicles, the agreements, the real estate, and the bank accounts. I'm not done speaking. Lucian, your brief phone conversation with Rufus. It was more than simply a recording. Rufus sent a copy to both the district attorney's office and my counsel. As it happens, attempting to harm someone's reputation in order to disrupt their business dealings while jailed results in some intriguing charges being added to your record. Your parole hearing was postponed for a minimum of 6 months. Except for the sound of his breathing becoming more rapid and frantic, The phone became silent. So, little brother, I would want to thank you. My life becomes better every time you attempt to mess with me. You keep giving me additional pieces while you pretend to be playing chess. Keep trying. Please. I want to know how much more you can raise my net worth. At last he murmured, You can't continue to do this to me. You're harming yourself. You just tried to sabotage my business ties with falsehoods while phoning from jail to beg for pardon. You are that person. You've always been that way. And that's why I'm managing a multi-million-dollar business while you're behind bars. I blocked the number and hung up. Rebuilding certain bridges is worthwhile. Others must remain in ashes. The truth is that although the affair was shocking, it was more terrible to learn that my whole family saw me as a resource to be controlled rather than a valued individual. It was sad yet empowering to learn that this new hype function was recently released by YouTube. Press the hype button if this article has captured your attention. This video deserves to go viral, and it keeps even more bizarre stories coming your way. It informs YouTube.